At my parents' anniversary, I was walking back from a call when I heard my sister tell her husband and my parents, "Ruby's got all that money and nothing to show for it. No husband, no kids, just an empty house." I went home, cut off every bill I'd been covering for her, and found hotel receipts with a man who wasn't her husband. Now she's divorced, lost custody, and sleeping at a bus station. Hey, Reddit. I don't usually post on here. I just scroll, read drama, and mind my business. But things at home went so sideways I honestly didn't know where else to drop this. My name's Ruby, 35, female. And if there's one thing I've learned the hard way, it's that family will drain you faster than strangers ever could, especially when there's a favorite in my family. That title's been glued to my younger sister, Lucy, 32, female, since the day she was born. I'm 3 years older, but you wouldn't know it by how I've been treated. To my parents, I'm the serious, boring one. Lucy is the golden girl who can do no wrong. Growing up, I was the type of kid who liked quiet. I'd be in my room reading or working on some little side project while other kids were out running around. Not because I didn't like fun, I just liked my space. Privacy mattered to me. Lucy was the opposite. She couldn't go 5 minutes without being the center of attention. Loud, flashy, always cracking jokes, and somehow always in my room messing with my stuff. She had zero concept of knocking. If my door was closed, she saw it as an invitation to barge in. I'd be in the middle of homework, headphones on, and suddenly she'd be behind me, picking up my things, going through my desk drawers like it was her personal treasure hunt. Once I caught her trying on my jacket in the mirror, not borrowing, just wearing it like it was already hers. I told her to take it off, and she smirked and said, "Chill, you're so uptight." My parents, they laughed when I complained. "She's your sister, Ruby. Don't be so dramatic." That's how it always was. Anything I called out was dramatic. Anything she did was harmless fun. She wasn't just disrespectful and invasive either. She had a way of making digs at me in front of people, turning them into little jokes so no one else saw how nasty they actually were. She'd make comments about how I never leave the house or how I was married to my job, and my parents would join in like it was family comedy night. The favoritism was baked into everything. First example, birthdays. My 10th birthday. I got a store-bought cake and a "you're growing up fast" from Dad. We didn't have much, so I didn't expect a mountain of gifts, but the whole thing was over in 20 minutes. Lucy's 10th birthday, whole backyard decked out, catered food from a local place, a bouncy castle, and a brand new gaming console. I remember sitting at the table watching her tear into her presents, my parents snapping pictures like she was some celebrity. Dad turned to me and said, "You're the older one. You understand?" Like that was supposed to make it fair. Second example, the rent situation. When I turned 19, Dad told me it was time to pay responsibility rent if I wanted to keep living at home. It wasn't much, but it was enough to take a big chunk out of my paycheck from the warehouse. I didn't argue. I figured that's just part of becoming an adult. Fast forward a few years, Lucy moves back home at 23, just for a little while after quitting another job. She pays nothing. Zero. Mom actually said, "We don't want to stress her. She's going through a lot." Meanwhile, I was paying rent the same week I was pulling 12-hour shifts. Third example, the laptop. I saved up for months to buy one. Extra shifts, no random spending, just stacking cash. I needed it for a certification course that could move me up at work. Lucy asked to borrow it for a presentation. A week later, it came back with a cracked screen and sticky keys. No apology, no offer to fix it. Just, "Stuff happens, sis." I had to push my course back a month and pay for repairs myself. When I told my parents, Mom rolled her eyes and said, "You're so picky with your things. It's just a laptop." Those 3 things might sound small to someone outside the family, but when it's year after year of the same treatment, it starts to feel like you're living in a rigged game. Lucy is the kind of woman who's great at making people like her in 5 minutes. She's pretty, tall, sharp jawline, perfect hair, the whole thing. Married a handsome guy, Ethan, who thinks she's some business genius. And that's the thing. She plays the part so well in public, but behind the scenes, she's been leaning on me financially for years. Rent, bills, emergency expenses, always in private, always with a "don't tell Ethan" tagged on at the end. I didn't just support her as an adult either. Even when we were kids, I was the one making sacrifices. I'd give up my turn at something so she could have another go. I'd cover for her when she forgot chores or take the blame when she broke something and didn't want to deal with Dad. Back then, I thought that's what being a big sister meant. You take the hit so your younger sibling can be happy. But Lucy didn't grow out of being the kid who breaks your stuff and laughs about it. She just learned how to do it with bigger things, like my time, my money, my peace of mind. And my parents never stopped encouraging it. To them, her charm and good looks mean she deserves more slack. My discipline and independence? That just makes me capable enough to be used. Here's the thing. I've done well for myself. I'm not rich, but I've worked my way into a solid career. I own my house, have a nice car, and I sleep fine at night, knowing I've built it all without shortcuts. But in my family's eyes, that just means I'm the one who can afford to give more. It's never about whether I want to. It's about the fact that Lucy shouldn't have to struggle because she's already under enough stress. And the worst part? No matter how much I give, it doesn't earn me respect. She still talks to me like I'm the one falling short, still pushes into my space like my boundaries are optional, still walks around like the golden girl who's got it all figured out, while I'm just the dependable older sister who's there to cover the gaps. That's the background. That's the pattern. And up until recently, I played along. I let her cross lines. I paid when she asked, and I pretended it didn't bother me. But there's only so many years you can carry someone before you start wondering why you're still holding them up. To the outside world, Lucy is the kind of woman people want to be friends with. The type you'd see walking into a restaurant with her husband, Ethan, and assume they were living the good life. Nice car, sharp clothes, the whole young, successful couple vibe. She's tall, keeps herself in shape, knows how to talk to people without making them feel awkward. Ethan is handsome, one of those men who turns heads without even trying. Together, they look like an ad for whatever life goal you think you should be chasing. What no one knows is how much of that image is on my dime. Lucy has always been obsessed with how people see her. She can't stand the thought of looking like she's struggling, especially in front of Ethan. I honestly think she believes his respect for her is tied to her ability to show him they're doing well. The problem is, she doesn't have the income or discipline to back that up. She jumps from one job to another, spends like her paycheck will magically grow next month, and when the bills come due, I get a call, and it's always private, never in front of Ethan. She'll wait until he's out, or she'll text me, call me later, with a time window. When I answer, it's the same story every time. Rent's late, the car needs repairs, utilities are overdue, something for the kids came up. It's never presented as her fault. She'll make it sound like life just threw her bad luck again, and she's this poor woman just trying to hold it all together for her family. The first time I helped her after she got married, I figured it was a one-time thing. They'd just had their first kid. Things were tight, and I thought, okay, I can float her this once so they don't have to stress. I covered her rent and car payment that month. She swore up and down she'd pay me back. Of course, that never happened. Then it became twice, then 3 times, then so regular that I just started budgeting for her. There were months where I paid more toward her life than my own. Here's how it usually went. Rent. She'd send me a screenshot of the amount and say, "Can you cover it this month? I'll sort it out next time." There was never a next time. I'd wire it straight to her landlord so it wouldn't be awkward for her. Utilities. She'd claim they were about to shut off the power and she just needed a quick boost to keep things running. Credit card bills. Yeah, I know. Dumb move. At one point, I added her to one of my credit cards for emergencies. She treated that card like it printed Monopoly money. Sneakers, dinners out, a new phone, all went on the card. I kept paying it off, so Ethan wouldn't see late fees or collection letters. Car repairs. She'd call and say, "Sis, I can't have Ethan driving the kids in something unsafe." I'd send money straight to the mechanic so Ethan would think Lucy had it covered. It got to the point where I was basically running a silent second household without telling anyone. The worst part was how my parents acted about it. They knew I was helping her, not the full amount, but enough to understand that Lucy wasn't standing on her own. Instead of telling her to grow up, they acted like I was fulfilling my duty as the older sister. Dad would say things like, "That's what family's for," and Mom would go on about how I should be proud of keeping the family strong. Proud? I was bailing water from a ship that Lucy was actively drilling holes into. Lucy never thanked me in a way that mattered. Oh, she'd say thanks in the moment, but it was more like checking a box than actual gratitude. She'd still make little digs about how I was single with nothing else to spend my money on. I guess in her head, my independence meant I owed it to her to fund her perfect life. Ethan had no clue. He genuinely thought Lucy was the one providing all of it. He'd post pictures online about how hard she works for her family, how she's such a provider. People would comment about what a great wife and mom she is. And I'd just sit there scrolling, thinking about the wire transfer I'd sent 2 days earlier to keep their lights on. It wasn't just about money either. Lucy treated my time like it was free. If she needed help moving furniture, I was there. Watching the kids so she and Ethan could have a night out? Sure, why not? Fixing something at their place because she didn't want to pay a handyman? Of course. It was constant. She'd text me, "Can you swing by for a sec?" And it would turn into a 4-hour job. My parents kept feeding this dynamic. If I complained, Mom would say, "Lucy has a family, Ruby. You're just one person. It's different for you." Dad would chime in with, "Your sister's not as practical as you. Be the bigger person." They acted like it was my role in life to absorb every bad decision Lucy made. There was one particular month that really showed me how bad it had gotten. Lucy had spent a chunk of her paycheck on a weekend getaway for her and Ethan. Fancy hotel, nice dinners, the works. Meanwhile, she was texting me that same week asking for help with the mortgage payment. I told her straight up, "Why would you take a trip if you couldn't cover your bills?" Her response, "I can't let Ethan think I can't provide. He deserves the best." Translation, I was the safety net that allowed her to keep lying. It's not like I was some selfless saint either. I've got my own life, my own bills, and I work hard for what I have. But every time I tried to pull back, she'd guilt-trip me with lines about the kids, or Mom would call and talk about how worried she was for Lucy. So I'd cave again. I wish I could say I was completely blind to how much it was costing me, but I knew. I knew I was enabling her. I knew it wasn't sustainable. But there's something about family that makes you think you can't just stop without being labeled the bad guy. The thing is, Lucy had everyone fooled but me. To friends, to extended family, even to Ethan, she was the woman. She'd show up to events looking sharp, laughing loud, telling stories about work and life. People ate it up. Meanwhile, I was behind the curtain, holding up the set pieces so they wouldn't fall over. Looking back now, the favoritism from our parents is what allowed her to get this comfortable. When we were kids, it was about toys, chores, and who got the last slice of cake. Now it was about who got to live stress-free and who got to pay for it. Dad would praise Lucy for keeping her family together while barely acknowledging that I was the one actually keeping them afloat. I'd get reminders of how invisible my efforts were all the time. Like when Ethan posted a picture of their new living room furniture with the caption, "So proud of Lucy for making our home beautiful." I recognized the couch instantly because I'd put it on my credit card. That was the rhythm of things. Lucy would keep up the image. I'd quietly fix the gaps, and no one would be the wiser. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was just helping until she got on her feet. Years went by. The cracks were there if anyone looked closely enough, but no one did. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect the change to come the way it did. I always figured I'd have to make some big announcement or blow up to finally cut her off. Turns out, all it took was hearing what she really thought of me when she didn't think I was listening. The thing about being the dependable sister is people get comfortable talking about you like you're not even there. They forget you have ears. Or maybe they just assume you're too mature to care. Either way, they get sloppy. A few months back, my parents threw a big anniversary dinner. They rented out the back room of an Italian place in town. Big family turnout. Uncles, aunts, cousins, even a couple of my parents' old friends from their neighborhood days. It was one of those events where you can't move 2 feet without someone grabbing your arm and saying, "You've gotten older," like that's breaking news. Lucy and Ethan showed up late, of course. She strolled in like a politician working a crowd, shaking hands, kissing cheeks, telling everyone they looked great. Ethan had that same effortless charm he always does. I could see a couple of the younger cousins staring at them like they were some celebrity couple. Dinner went as expected. Loud, messy, lots of overlapping conversations. I sat next to Uncle Ray, who spent most of the night talking about his fishing trips, which was fine by me. I'm not a spotlight person. I just wanted to eat, nod at the right moments, and get through the night without having to explain why I'm still single. About halfway through dessert, I got up to take a call. Nothing important, just a buddy confirming our plans for the weekend. I stepped outside into the hallway by the restrooms. When I was done, I took the long way back to the table so I wouldn't have to pass by the bar where a bunch of my dad's friends were smoking. That's when I heard it. The hallway led past this little alcove near the coat rack. Lucy was standing there with Ethan and my parents. They hadn't seen me. I slowed down without even thinking about it. Mom was saying something about how she was so proud of Lucy for providing for her family. Ethan smiled and said he was lucky to have a wife who never lets them go without. Then Lucy laughed, that smug, too loud laugh I've known my whole life, and said, "Yeah, Ruby could take notes. All that money and nothing to show for it. No husband, no kids, just her in that big empty house." Ethan chuckled, and my dad added, "We've been telling her for years, but she's too stubborn, doesn't know what she's missing." Lucy kept going. "She acts like she's better because she's independent, but I wouldn't trade my life for hers in a million years. She's got no one, probably never will. Just works, eats, and sleeps." Mom laughed. "Well, at least she's good for something. Helping family." They all laughed at that one. I can't even explain what that felt like. Not because I was shocked. I've heard variations of this before, just never this naked. And never after I'd been paying for the rent Lucy claimed she covered, or the credit card charges she racked up so Ethan could keep thinking they were fine. It wasn't just the disrespect, it was the fact they were bonding over it. Like my worth in this family boiled down to being the faceless ATM behind Lucy's Provider Act. I didn't step out and confront them. I didn't make a scene. That's not me. I just turned around, walked out of the restaurant, and drove home. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't pay my share of the bill. Didn't answer the 2 texts from Mom asking where I went. By the time I got home, I was done. I'd let it slide for years. The digs, the favoritism, the one-way street of help. I told myself it was just family dynamics, but hearing them joke about it like I was some idiot who didn't even notice, that was different. That was final. I sat down at my desk and started pulling up every account I'd ever tied to Lucy. Rent payments, canceled. Utility auto payments, gone. The shared credit card, disabled immediately. I even called the bank's fraud line just to make sure nothing pending could sneak through before it closed. The next morning, I emailed her landlord, short and to the point. "Effective immediately. I will no longer be responsible for rent payments for Unit 3. Please address all future matters directly with Lucy." That was it. No warning. No, "I'll give you a month." They wanted to talk about me like I was a joke? Fine. Let them figure out what life looks like without me covering the gaps. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of something with them. Not happy exactly, just clear. It took about a week for the fallout to hit. After I overheard Lucy, there was no going back. I'd already pulled the plug on every payment I'd been covering for her. Rent, utilities, the card, all gone. It felt good, but not in the movie scene kind of way where you throw your head back and laugh. It was more like taking a deep breath after holding it for too long. The shared credit card was the one I wanted gone the fastest. It had started as a dumb idea years ago when Lucy convinced me it would help in emergencies if she was an authorized user. Back then, I thought I was doing her a solid. In reality, I'd just given her a personal shopping account with my name on it. She'd run it up, I'd pay it off, and Ethan never saw a single late fee. A couple days after the restaurant, while shutting down the card, I called the bank, told them to freeze it immediately, and remove Lucy from the account. The rep on the phone went through recent transactions to confirm which ones I still needed to pay. That's when I noticed a couple of charges that didn't make sense. 2 different hotel receipts from the same week, both high-end places, both local. I'm talking a 20-minute drive from Lucy's house. My first thought was maybe it was a business thing, but Lucy doesn't travel for work. And if it was some special getaway for her and Ethan, I'd have heard about it from her at the next family gathering. She loves posting that kind of thing. I asked the rep to email me the detailed statements. 10 minutes later, I had PDFs sitting in my inbox. One click and there it was. Each receipt had the guest name listed. Neither said Lucy or Ethan. It was Lucy's card number, but the name in the guest line was a man I'd never heard of. I sat there for a good minute, staring at the screen. Not shocked, not even angry yet, just processing. These weren't bar tabs or lunch receipts. These were overnight stays. Same man's name, 2 different dates, same pattern, room service charges, late checkout. If I'd had any doubt, it vanished when I noticed one was billed on the same day Ethan had posted photos from a guy's day trip. He'd been out of town. Lucy hadn't been with him. Now I knew exactly where she'd been. Part of me wanted to call her right then and let it rip, but I didn't. That would have given her room to spin it, to make excuses, to try and flip it back on me. I've seen her do it 100 times with my parents. Turn the heat around until the other person is the one apologizing. Instead, I started thinking about Ethan. He'd been in the dark for years. Not just about the cheating, but about the fact I'd been covering Lucy's financial mess. He thought he was married to a woman who provided, who kept their life stable. Meanwhile, half the stability was coming from me, and now I knew she'd been running around with someone else while I was keeping her lights on. I pulled up my email and forwarded the statements to myself again, but this time I also downloaded them to a flash drive I keep for important files. I wasn't going to text or email them to Ethan. This wasn't the kind of thing you drop through a screen. It needed to be face-to-face. The next morning I went through my own records, old transfers, rent payments, utility bills. I printed out the ones tied to Lucy. Not everything, just enough to make the point clear. When I was done, I had a neat little pile of paper, proof of the money, proof of the hotels, proof of the pattern. I didn't rush it. I waited until I knew Ethan would be home without Lucy, midweek, when she'd usually be at work. I called him, told him I needed to talk about something important. He sounded curious, not suspicious. When I got to their place, he offered me coffee. I said no. I sat at the kitchen table, set the papers down, and told him exactly what they were. First, the financial support, how I'd been paying their rent, covering the credit card, bailing her out for years. Then, the hotel receipts. At first, he just stared at the papers. Then, he read the name on the receipts. That's when his face changed. He knew who it was. I didn't ask, and he didn't say, but I could tell by the way his jaw clenched that this wasn't some random stranger to him. I didn't tell him what to do. I just told him he deserved to know the truth. He thanked me quietly and said he needed some time. I left without trying to comfort him. This wasn't about me swooping in to be the hero. It was about pulling the curtain back and letting him see what was actually going on. 2 weeks later, word got around the family. Ethan had filed for divorce and was going for full custody of the kids. My parents called me furious. They blamed me for destroying Lucy's marriage. I reminded them I wasn't the one in hotel rooms with another man, and Lucy didn't call me directly. She sent one text. "You've ruined my life." I didn't reply. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped protecting her from the fallout she'd been building for years. When word got out that Ethan had filed for divorce, I could feel the temperature shift. My phone went from quiet to buzzing like a fire alarm. First, it was my mom, Linda, calling nonstop. Then my dad, Mark. Then a couple of my aunts, who never call me unless someone's in the hospital or they want to ride somewhere. All of them had the same tone, like I'd just committed a crime against the family. "Ruby, how could you?" Mom's voice cracked like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "You know how hard marriage is. You don't air someone's dirty laundry like that." "I didn't air anything," I said. I handed the laundry basket to the person it belonged to. She gasped like I'd just sworn at her. "You destroyed their family." "Lucy destroyed her family," I said flatly. "I just stopped covering for her." Then Dad jumped in on a separate call, hitting me with his favorite line. "We raised you to take care of family, even when they make mistakes." "Dad, a mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. Repeatedly sleeping with another man while your husband's out of town. That's a choice." He went silent for a second, then went straight to guilt. "You're going to let your own niece and nephew grow up in a broken home." "They'll grow up in a home without lies," I said. "That's better than the alternative." It didn't matter what I said. In their eyes, I'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Lucy, of course, didn't have the guts to call me at first. She sent me one of those fake calm texts that's actually just simmering rage. "You've ruined my life. Hope you're happy." I didn't reply. If I had, it would have been something like, "No, Lucy, you ruined your own life. I just stopped paying for it." But honestly, even that would have been wasted breath. Ethan moved quick. He wasn't messing around. Full custody filing, financial statements, the works. And he had the kind of lawyer who doesn't just aim to win. They aim to make the other side bleed money in the process. Lucy's act crumbled fast without me propping it up. The rent payment she swore she always handled suddenly didn't get made. The utilities got shut-off notices within weeks. Ethan found out just how deep the lies went. Not just the cheating, but the years of fake stability. From what I heard, the first custody hearing didn't go well for her. Ethan's lawyer came in with a binder the size of a dictionary full of financial records. Some of it was stuff I'd given him. Proof that I'd been the one covering bills while Lucy spent her money on herself. Judges don't like hearing that a mom's been lying to her husband and mooching off someone else while pretending to be a provider. Lucy tried to spin it. Told the court she'd had family assistance, but that it was temporary. The receipts told a different story. Years of transfers from me, payments directly to her landlord, my name on utility accounts for a house I didn't live in. Ethan got temporary full custody right there. Lucy got supervised visitation until she could prove financial stability, which was laughable because her job situation was already on the edge. The week after that hearing, I started getting messages from cousins saying my parents were going around telling everyone I'd sided with Ethan and betrayed blood. Extended family that used to be friendly suddenly got cold. I'd walk into a room at a gathering and conversations would stall. People I'd known my whole life wouldn't look me in the eye. Did it sting? Yeah, but it didn't change anything. I wasn't going to set myself on fire to keep Lucy warm. Lucy finally called me about a month after everything blew up. It wasn't to apologize, it wasn't to own up, it was to ask for money. Just until I get back on my feet, sis, she said, like we were talking about borrowing jumper cables. I laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in weeks. You think I'm sending you money after everything? This isn't about us, she snapped. This is about my kids. No, I said, this is about you. Your kids are fine. Ethan's taking care of them. You're the one who needs the money, and I'm not your wallet anymore. You're cold, Ruby, she said, her voice shaking. You've changed. Yeah, I said, I stopped being stupid. That was the last real conversation we had. Without my money, Lucy's life started shrinking. Fast. She downgraded from their rental house to a one-bedroom apartment in a sketchy part of town. Then she couldn't keep up with that and moved into a rented room in someone else's place. Ethan kept the car in the divorce, so she was back to using public transit or bumming rides off friends. The job she had, some sales position she'd bragged about for months, didn't last. Apparently, showing up late and letting personal drama spill into work isn't great for keeping clients happy. She bounced to a couple of temp gigs, none of which stuck. Meanwhile, my parents doubled down on their opinion that I was cruel. Every phone call with them turned into an argument. They'd accuse me of abandoning Lucy, and I'd remind them I'd been financially carrying her for years, while they looked the other way. One night, my mom actually said, "If you loved your sister, you'd help her even now." I told her, if you'd raised her to stand on her own, we wouldn't be having this conversation. She hung up on me. The irony? A few of the relatives who'd been avoiding me started reaching out quietly, saying they understood why I cut her off. Turns out, Lucy had borrowed from more than just me over the years. The difference was, I'd been stupid enough to make it easy for her. By the end of the year, Lucy was a shell of the woman who used to stroll into family events like she owned the place. Her clothes weren't as sharp. She'd lost weight in a way that wasn't healthy. The confidence was gone, replaced by this jittery energy, like she was always waiting for the next piece of bad news. And here's the thing. I didn't take pleasure in seeing her like that. I didn't need her to be miserable for me to feel justified. But I also didn't feel sorry for her. Everything she lost was something she'd been pretending to have in the first place. The family kept trying to pull me back in. Just help her with rent for a few months. It's Christmas, Ruby. Don't be heartless. Think of the kids. They never once said, Lucy needs to apologize, or Lucy needs to change. It was always about me stepping up again so she wouldn't have to. I held the line, and every time I said no, it got a little easier. By spring, I heard through the grapevine that Lucy was months behind on rent for the room she was in. She'd burned bridges with the few friends who'd tried to help. She was couch surfing, but even that was wearing thin. My parents were still in denial, telling everyone she was between jobs and sorting things out. I knew better. Lucy wasn't sorting anything out. She was circling the drain. By summer, her situation had gone from bad to worse. The room she was renting, gone. The landlord had given her a 2-month grace period after months of late rent, but when the money never came, she was out. No storage unit, no moving truck, just a couple of trash bags and a duffel. Ethan had the kids full-time now. The custody decision was final. He had sole custody, and Lucy's visitation was supervised once a month at a community center. She'd lost the car in the divorce too, so she was on foot. Most of the family didn't know the details, just that things were still being worked out. The truth was, there was nothing to work out. She was broke. The sales job was long gone. The temp work dried up. A buddy of hers got her a spot on a construction crew for day labor, but she lasted a week before they stopped calling her back, showed up late twice, took too many breaks, and mouthed off to a supervisor. She started crashing on friends' couches, but that didn't last. One guy kicked her out after finding out she'd been borrowing clothes and not returning them. Another told her flat out he couldn't deal with the drama that followed her everywhere, which was code for the constant calls from my parents begging them to keep her. That's when my parents went into overdrive. Calls, texts, even showing up at my place once. They wanted me to take her in, just until she gets steady work. Dad said, "She's your sister." I told them no, every time. Not once did they say she'd pay rent or even help out. It was always framed as me helping family, which was their polite way of saying, "Let her live off you again." They tried the guilt route. "She's sleeping in her car." That was impossible. Ethan had gotten the car in the divorce months ago. Then it was, "She's staying outside." That one turned out to be true. She'd been hanging around a park near the bus station at night because there were a couple of security lights and less trouble there than other spots. By August, word got around to the extended family. Some offered her food or a little cash. Others stayed away. The same aunts and uncles who used to brag about Lucy at gatherings now avoided talking about her at all. The Golden Girl image was gone, and no one wanted to be too close to the wreckage. One of my cousins ran into her downtown and said they barely recognized her. Beard grown out, clothes wrinkled, carrying a backpack that looked like it had been through a war. She wasn't the loud, polished Lucy anymore. She kept her head down and mumbled when people spoke to her. Even Ethan's friends had started talking. At first, he'd kept quiet about the cheating, but after Lucy made a couple of public scenes, showing up uninvited at the kids' school events, trying to talk to him in parking lots, he stopped protecting her. He told anyone who asked exactly why they divorced and how long it had been going on. Whatever social credibility she had left evaporated. The last time my parents brought her up to me, they said, "She's not the same person anymore." I didn't answer. It wasn't worth pointing out that she was the same person, just without the money, house, and lies holding the act together. By September, she was sleeping at the bus station most nights. The security guards knew her by name. Sometimes she'd get a spot at the shelter, but those beds filled up fast. She started asking random relatives for small amounts of cash, $5 here, 10 there. Most of them stopped answering her calls. That's where she stayed. Not in some dramatic trying to rebuild phase, just stuck. And me? I didn't swoop in. I didn't save her. I didn't restart the cycle. I'd already spent years sacrificing my time, my money, and my peace to keep her from facing the consequences of her choices. I wasn't going to do it again. If my family wanted to paint me as cold, so be it. I'd rather be cold than be her safety net one more time.